The next is that we take a look at the curriculum itself. And in that vein, in driving our mission statement, we have our central focus. The reason why our curriculum, I think, is unique is that it is inquiry-based, place-based, and integrated.
To find the 3 Pedagogical Practices document and all STI training documents, return to the Training of Trainers page.
Inquiry-based is essential, not only for the success of the teachers and the students in being able to grapple with and find answers and find their own way. But if it's inquiry-based, we don't pretend to know all of the answers. The 29 federally recognized tribes have endorsed this curriculum. And I think one of the very large reasons why they did is because this curriculum does not pretend to know the answers. This curriculum is a base for you to be able to take a look at some general information and then work with your tribe to see how that knowledge is translated, used, or interpreted by tribal people. For example, the definition of tribal sovereignty is going to be different from tribe to tribe. When you go down to something as little as, well, we think it's little, it's huge. It's a huge political act, mapping a territory. You're going to see there is great disagreement between and among tribes about where certain boundaries of traditional tribal homelands begin and end. And so it's really important for you to work with your tribe. And with inquiry-based and place-based, it truly makes for I think you talked about an authentic curriculum, and also a place where students are engaged, because when they are learning about their community, the people in their community, and how this history and how this present and future impacts them as people, then they become invested. They become committed. They share that same commitment that one of our trainers was talking about earlier during introductions. The last thing is that it is integrated. I spoke earlier of the parameter of time, the 180 hours, and most of my responses would be, okay, you're going to give me this curriculum, yeah, it's great, okay, so tell me what I'm going to throw out. I have 180 hours to teach thousands of years, so tell me what I'm going to throw out. And what this curriculum drives to do is not force teachers to make that choice. That they may use this curriculum throughout the year, as little or as much as they like, and with a faith that their commitment and engagement in the curriculum will grow as their teaching grows. Okay. We have essential questions and grade level goals. The essential questions that we developed were developed with the help of the Evergreen State College. And these are essential questions, grades 3 through 12, that we have questions about physical geography affecting tribal culture and economy. And we have an essential question about legal status of tribes and treaties, and political, economic, and cultural forces that led to those treaties, and then tribal response to threats and outside pressure to extinguish culture, and local tribes what local tribes do to currently meet those challenges and work to build their nations. So if you think about that as an umbrella, and then underneath are going to be the grade level goals, the big 5, for elementary, middle, and high school. And you'll notice that with each 5, that they are the same in concept. But as the student becomes more mature, the depth and complexity of our goals increases as well. So at the elementary level, our hope is that by the time our students leave elementary school, that they'll understand that there are over 500 nations within this country that operate on a government-to-government basis with the United States, that they understand a basic. Remember earlier I said the definition of tribal sovereignty changes? Well, if you try to tell that to a third grader, forget it. But if they can understand a very simple definition of tribal sovereignty, is that a way that tribes govern themselves and support their lifeways, then we're going a long way there. That they'll understand that tribal sovereignty predates treaties, that the treaties actually limited sovereignty, not granted it. And you could tell some grown-ups about that too. And then they should be able to identify the names and locations of the tribes in their area. Are there any questions? Great, middle school. Middle school, you'll notice that we have the same concept. It just goes a little bit deeper. We start getting into foundational documents. We start taking a look at the complexities of tribal sovereignty in terms of economy, in terms of politics, in terms of culture. And that tribes are subject to federal laws and taxes. So, and that we have tribal sovereignty as ever evolving, and the status varies from tribe to tribe, and that there were and are frequent threats to sovereignty, and how those threats are addressed are typically in the courts now. At high school, not only do they have the landmark, the foundational documents, they start getting into the landmark cases and legislation and decisions that affect tribal sovereignty. That they understand that tribal sovereignty protects and develops tribal nations. That tribal, state, and federal governments often work together toward a same goal. Taking a look at a lot of those projects that tribes partner up with those local, state, and federal governments to sustain salmon, to get the salmon population back, for example. To explain the governmental structure of at least one local tribe, and then to be able to distinguish between federally and non-federally recognized tribes. The next slide goes into why the curriculum works, and collaborative is at the top. It's at the top because I want you to start thinking as trainers, as you are embarking on a journey to teach with tribes, not about them. And let me say that one more time. You are teaching with your local tribes, not about them. And I think that's another reason why we have such widespread support of our curriculum initiative, is because we're not pretending to know everything. I think that we've had sufficient literature written about tribes, and now it's time for tribes to have that say and that voice and that impact of their own history on their communities. It's reliable. I keep on coming back to authentic. I like that word. I feel like I should put that in as well. But teachers more often than not will balk at the idea of teaching anything about natives, because so much has been taught wrong in the past. You don't want to perpetuate that. And so you're going to find that many of your participants will have that fear. How can I teach something that I really know very little about? And so we provide reliable materials for your teachers so that they can feel confident in the content. That it is aligned with state standards and soon to be national state standards, and that it is all online. And I know that for some districts, they're still using dial-up connections with the internet, and so if they can't do via internet, then we will be able to provide DVDs with all of the curriculum, the materials, everything, and that it is free. And I think this is where your training really can be supported by your building administrator and by your school district and by your school board, is because in in this economy, it seems that the first budget item to get cut is professional development. And if we're talking about some great professional development that is free, there are no textbooks, that everything is free, and that they can provide it with offering clock hours. It seems like offering clock hours by a district, that they cost them nothing, but that's where you get your participants, and so the free becomes increasingly important. We talked about that it was integrated, and then we also talked about its manageability. And so what we'll get into next is to talk about how it's manageable, how teachers make that particular choice.